Welcome in, everyone. This is our weekly flow alerts recap for the week of 9/9/24 to 9/13/2024. Little shorter video this week. Didn't have a ton of plays, but we had a lot of great flow. So as always, we're going to kind of look at the flow that came in, go over the full range of the contracts, and yeah, kind of just give some tips and trips for those that are watching that here. So let's get started. So first up, on 9/9, we had these snap bid side puts come in. A little longer expiration date here, but let's take a peek at the flow and bump this back to 9/9. So here's our whale, and again, always looking at the raw data, and let's bump this net premium out too at the time to take a peek. So here's 9/9. We did have a lot of ask side put premium, which we did get that dip the next day, but we did have a lot of net call premium here coming in now. And look at snap. We have made a big move up since then. Now let's take a peek at the flow here. So again, you can see it's 28,000 contracts on the bid side. And taking a peek at the raw flow here. So again, one thing I always like looking at is the IV. And we can see that IV decreasing here a little bit. Still decreasing on its way up. A couple bump ups, but still overall decreasing here, and we are getting filled at the bid here, so good sign. Not always 100% true, but this is a good sign that they are writing these puts or selling the puts. And taking a peek at the stock chart since 9/9, here is, let's go 9/9 here. So 9/9, just roughly in this time period. Again, 8.55. We've made a pretty big, almost $1 move up here on Snap. So good flow there. And this whale filled these at 17. They hit a low of 10 today. So that whale collecting about 41% of that premium. Very nice job by that whale. So moving on, next we had Neo calls. And these were on the 11-15-6 call. Taking a peek here, this is a good example of an exit and a close. So we had the big whale come in here. We have 10,465 contracts there, 13,000 there, so we'll say about 23,000, just to make it easy math. And this was on the 9th. We can see majority of that carrying over. Obviously, we had some other volume throughout the day, but majority of that carrying over. We know this whale is carrying these over. And looking at the day when they came in, we can see there was already open interest on here. What I like to do is kind of pop back just to make sure it's not another big whale closing, etc. So coming back here, so about 23 contracts, keep that number in your head. These contracts running from 0.41 all the way to a high of 52 here on the 9th, the same day actually. And then they did swing them because you can see right here that swinging carrying over. And they did close these on the 13th. Or the 12th, sorry. Close these on the 12th at 39. But these did hit a high of 54. 54, 55-ish it looks like. So giving us about 34% on those. Here's that whale closing. You can see that bid side volume of about 26,000 there. And we can see that decrease in open interest the next day. And let's take a peek at the net premium at the time. So again, seeing a lot of that net call premium here. Some put premium picking up here as well, but majority of it is ask side call premium. So moving on, here we had, so on 9/10 we had BA 9/13-155 puts. These expire today. Here is our original whale entry. They entered these at 101. These hit a high of 198 for 96%. This one's a little tougher to read because we had, let's just say, about 3,700 contracts here on the 10th. see about roughly that coming over and seeing some of that volume the next day. These contracts could have been passed off onto somebody else. We don't see a full closure here, but this whale was in profit at some point, and I would assume they probably took some profits here. And this little on these ask side candles would be a good bet for me. But these contracts did run 101 to 198. Again, enough time for people to take profits. It just stops up. That's what I like to do. So another good flow, piece of flow there. Let's move on to some GM put sells again. We are looking, and these expire on the 20th. Again, bid side flow here. Can see that volume once this guy comes in here. Again, we're leaning more towards that bid side, especially on a wider spread. This is a little easier to read, but we can see that first chunk of contracts come in here, and then we see that IV start decreasing, and that IV just staying low, not coming back up at all. And again, that spot being filled at that bid side. Again, this is textbook flow here, what I like to see. And looking at the net call premium at the time. So again, these came in on the 10th. Here's your 10th. We had a huge spike in net call premium, showing a good sign. And here is that bid side put premium here. So that kind of 2 data points there. I like to see that. Again, here's that entry about, let's take a peek. 5,000 contracts, we'll just make it even. About 5,000 carrying over that next day, and the whale's still in, and these contracts have depreciated from 32 to a low of 12 today. This whale has collected about 62.5% of that premium. Very nice find there as well. So moving on, we have some longer term, again, 371 days, so you're not going to get the best accurate result right now just with the time frame being a little longer, but 9/19/2025, 500 Tesla calls. Here is our entry, about 1,100 contracts for $1 million. You can see that on that candle premium there. Taking a peek at the flow. Here is where we'll come back here. Oops, let me go through that. So again, little wider spread here. We're being filled at the ask, and we're looking at that IV as we come up. Can keep seeing that spot being filled at that ask side. And that spot just staying at the ask side, IV staying the same. These look like buys to me. And again, looking at the flow, these were filled at 9:10 and they hit a high of 10.25 today. These contracts are up about 12%. Again, longer time frame, a little harder to kind of recap stuff like that. Looking at that net call premium the last 7 days, big spike here on the 5th, big spike on the 9th, huge spike on the 10th when this came in. Big spike yesterday on the 12th. Good signs there. So again, do what you want with this information. It's a longer trade. Up next we have NVDA calls, which were probably the best trade of the week on the 10/4/107 calls. Here is our initial entry at 594. These ran all the way, and this whale's still in. Actually, this is an interesting trade because we have roughly 10,000. We'll make it even. Another 12,000 there, so 22,000 there the next day. So these came in the 11th. These were on the 10th. So here's your 10th. You can see that 10,000 come in. They may have took some profits there because only half of the next days carried over into the 12th. So you can see we had that 13,000 volume and only 8,000 carried over. So they could have sold some of these at the ask at 786. But if they didn't, and there's just some other transactions in there, these contracts hit a high of, we are at 1536-ish here, 1536 here yesterday on the 12th. So these contracts running from the actual, I think, average fill here was 6. So 6 to about 1536, that's 156% for those keeping track. And again, longer term trade, you can see that here, 594 all the way up to 1536. Looking at that net call premium, again, easy one to spot. Look at that net call premium spiking there. More net call premium there. Looks like they could be taking some profits today. And taking a peek at the flow as always. Going down here. So here's where whale comes in. Again, another perfect example. That spot coming in here right at the ask, and we have the spot increasing here as well. Our IV is increasing too, all the way up. Very good sign. Can assume these are buys. You can just keep seeing that coming up here, being filled at the ask. Pretty textbook flow there for those keeping track. So those NVDA ones were good. Moving on, next we have for 9/11 these YETI 10/18/37.5 calls being filled at 150. Here is our entry, 154. These hit a high of 270 today, sitting at about 270, about 80%, 150 to 270 for that max range. Looks like this whale's still in. Looking at the time, I really like looking at the net premiums. Huge spike in net call premium, and even bumping this out further, you can see we don't get a lot of big spikes in net call premiums, but then here we are on the 11th when this came in. Huge spike, over 200,000. And then here we are since then. It's just been crawling its way up. And look at that call volume too. That really sticks out as well. And actually, you gotta look at the flow. Coming back, looking at the flow. We're gonna come back here and just do it this way. So coming down here, again, you can kind of see once that flow starts coming in, IV staying kind of lower there. Big spike when the big order comes in here, and this again spreads were a little wider here. Bid ask is a little wider, being filled towards that ask side, and you can see the large size of contracts with premium, and that's your IV spike. Can assume those are buys. And then even kind of looking up here a little bit later, we can see a floor trader coming in for another 8,000. Again, spot price up, IV up. Assuming we can assume they're buys then at that point. So moving on now, we have a couple left. So BABA, these are the 10/4/86 calls. Filled at 195. Again, nice little run up here. So 195. These hit 237 yesterday on the 12th. About 21% on those. Looks like they could be taking some profits here for a loss. Have to check that next day, but can see this is about 500 contracts. Coming in on the 11th, carrying over, seeing a lot of volume here. Could be contracts that didn't pass off. We don't see a big clean exit yet, but these did hit 21%. Good trade, should always be adjusting up stops. Taking a peek at that net call premium. Huge spike there. Obviously, we had some net put premium coming up, but call volume was outweighing that net put volume. Taking a peek at the flow. Again, IV staying the same. but being filled at that ask on a wider spread. Good sign there. We did have some bid side stuff come in before, but that spread widened and we stayed at that ask. So good sign there. Again, hitting about 21% on those. Next up, we have Chewy, and these came in on the 11th still. We're still on the 11th. Again, longer term flow here, 216 days, but these being filled at that 320 mark. You can see that here. And they're hitting about 430 for a high today. So they're up about 34%. Again, looking at the flow, 61.30, that IV staying up here. Small little drop, but only one contract. And again, always looking at that bid and ask and seeing what side it's filled on, especially if you see an IV drop like that. I always like looking at that spot on the bid and ask and see, well, where are we being filled? Well, this was filled at 319. That's not necessarily somebody writing those contracts. That spread opened up. So again, you can see that, again, ask sides fills. Can assume this is a buy. Looking at the net call premium to the last couple days. So starting on the 6th here, spike on the 11th when these came in, spike yesterday, and looks like they're starting to sell off today, and lots of call volume as well there too. Again, these are running about 34% right now. We had CLF from yesterday. Again, a nice little swing trade for those that could have swung it. Getting filled at 67, hitting a high of 97 today. 44% on that for a swing overnight. Looking at our flow. Let's go over here again. 56.20. IV kind of staying there. IV drops a little bit here, but again, we're looking at that spot. It's being filled here and down here as well. Again, we're being filled on that ask side of things. Let's come back here. Oops. And okay, I didn't have any more. I just want to take a peek and see if more came in there. But again, can see more kind of coming in here towards the end of the day too. Some decent sized premiums. And looking at that net premium again for the last couple days. Huge spike in net call premium yesterday. Huge spike in net call premium today. Good sign. And even bumping it out 14 days. Not seeing a ton of net premiums here. Obviously, we had some bid side put premium here. Some more bid side put premium there. And then we had that huge spike in net call premium, which was on the day these came in. So those have ran 60.67 and 0.97, 44% on those. Then we had one trade today, which made a nice intraday move. These GEV 1018-250 calls coming in at 365, hitting a high of 501 today. 37% on those. Looks like this whale's taking profits here as well. Could be this candle size about 1,000. About 390 there and 600 there. So about this probably looks like them exiting at the ask and then selling these at the bid. Again, would want to check that open interest on Monday. But let's take a peek at this flow, because the flow is a little trickier here because we have that first flow that came in, and this is the alert that was posted. Can see that spike in that IV when it comes in, being filled at the ask side on a wider spread. And then it looks like we had this bid side flow come in about a couple minute or two later with a drop in the IV, but not a huge drop, but we do get filled at the bid. So these came in after this was posted. This is something that I would keep my eyes on when this does happen. Just they could be exiting quick, but they did fill at a higher spot too than these ones. So to me, they could have been taking quick profits or doubling down at the bid. But nonetheless, these contracts hit 501 today for about 37%. And I do like to show everybody, for those that are interested in joining Discord. Pull this up quick, sorry. I do how everything's posted. So, I mean, we have our flow alerts ask side. Here's for our week. Everything is always posted. No edits, nothing like that. You can see there's no editing, any of that. And I forgot these T calls, which did do good too. Yeah, everything else is in here. I mean, try to put notes if there's heavy sizes. So, I mean, these NVDA ones that came in, this is how they looked. This is how it's easy to read. Try to make it easy for everybody to read. And yeah, I mean, this should be easy for people to follow along with. Otherwise, yeah. So, I mean, everything, all the flow for the week provided a profit of at least, and I like to say 15% or more, besides those Teslas, a little under 13%, but good week overall for the flow. Reminder that next week we have FOMC on Wednesday. Could see chop on the market Monday and Tuesday. Everybody have a great weekend and stay safe, everyone.